So, hello everybody. This is Sarkolata with Architecture Talk Tongue. Today we're going to talk about architecture, design, and entrepreneurship. I have a guest, Valentino Gareri, who lives in Sydney. He's an architect and he runs Valentino Gareri Atelier. And we're going to talk a little bit about his journey as an entrepreneur and architect and how he's built his own business. And we go and talk a little bit about his motto being dreaming is more, which I'm really fascinated about. I want to get deeper into it. I know that you guys are changing the world in your own way, so I want to know all about it. Perhaps we can start with you telling us a little bit about yourself, Valentino.
Well, hi, Sarah. Nice to be here and talk to you. Yes, my name is Valentino Gareri, so I am an architect, but actually, I like to just describe myself more as a designer. And the reason is because the verb design actually comes from the Latin designare, which means make and give shape to things. And I like to think that architects and designers are actually making in shape to the world of tomorrow. And actually be an architect today means also being able to kind of read the constant change of the society and being able to anticipate the change for the future. And this way our responsibility is to shape the world accordingly in order to respond to the society needs, climate changes, and everything, in order to give always through our design and through our buildings an answer to some problems and pragmatic and practical needs. So I started my journey as an architect, also because I think that everyone has a responsibility, as a human beings. So everyone has different skills, and I think everyone should contribute and give the contribution to make the planet a better place where to live in. And as an architect, I think that I have my opportunity, right, to inform specific aspects through my work and through my jobs, uh, as much as maybe a doctor or a teacher in different fields. So and of course, the passion is another big and important aspect, because when you love what you do, is basically you feel like you're not working at all. So I started, as an architect, working for important practices through my career, actually living in Europe, Australia, and USA. And then I decided to start my own business when I thought that was the right moment to actually uh, to to have more space and to actually have the opportunity to make my dreams more uh, feasible. Because actually, when you realize that what you're looking for is not there, so I was looking for a practice, or I was looking for a projects where I could really kind of give my best contribution. But I just noticed that practice didn't exist. So I said, why don't should I just create it? And actually, that's the reason why I started my own business actually a couple of years ago. At the beginning, I was more, instead of, usually when you have a business, you actually work for someone. Someone comes to you, a client, potential clients comes to you and ask for a project. The way I started was other way around. So I actually started from the projects, and the clients, they came to me. So it was like more attracting people with the same mindset. So putting a problem out there, for example, a low cost and sustainable modular school for Africa, I thought was a very important topic to kind of develop and to do some research on. And actually, there was no commission on that project, but I started doing some research and trying to understand how, in that case, for example, there is an issue in Africa, in the sub-Saharan part of Africa, where the educational kind of process is very compromised by the lack of educational buildings, and because of course the cost and everything. And children over there have to travel a lot to go to the closest school, and in most of the cases they leave studies when they are very young. So I was thinking, why don't we think about a system of modular kind of buildings where we can reduce the cost of construction, create some flexible buildings. And in that case, I started doing this research, and actually after that, some ONG, profit organization approached me because they were very keen on the project. So that's just an example to give you, just an idea of how I started, and then after that, actually now we are doing projects also for direct commissions from clients that they come directly and ask for. But I still keep that kind of sense of kind of self proposing topics, where actually, even if I have clients that come to me and ask for something, in the same time, I would like, to keep exploring things that I'm keen on, even if it's not necessarily a project that is requested by someone, and it's always useful, for the future. So I keep this kind of more like kid curiosity still alive.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you just said so many different things that I want to unpack, but I wanted to ask you specifically because I find it interesting. You started with like obviously problem in the developmental world, which is there's a lot of issues and it doesn't always get the attention that it needs. So what did you do in order to actually be noticed by, let's just say, like the NGO that wanted to collaborate with you or any other partners to bring a project to fruition? Did you go out there and market it? Was it your communication strategy? Did you like leverage social media for this? What exactly did you do in order to actually have other people realizing that what you're doing is useful and can perhaps also match their projects, and therefore it's worth partnering with?
Well, in that specific case, to be honest, I haven't done any marketing at all, because actually that was not my interest at the time. I was not actually working for myself. I was still working for someone else. So it was a very genuine, kind of tentative to put out there some ideas, right? To share ideas, actually, and without any other interest economically or financially. So at that case, I just posted a few, I think a few images on my Instagram profile, and then some other magazines they shared on, some important architectural magazine they shared on their website. So it became kind of viral, and actually I've seen my Instagram booming, and like this project was published everywhere. So it came very, I would say, unexpectedly, but uh, not totally, because of course I believe in those ideas. I believe they are very valid, but I didn't do with the purpose of getting all this visibility. So, and from there, actually, many other things happened, because of course some people saw the project, and some of these people actually are my clients at the moment. So it came everything gradually but naturally. Is what
Mm-hmm.
actually I want to mention, because sometimes you want to replicate the same scheme, but uh, it's very hard. It's like nowadays, actually, with new social medias for like the very young people now, they use TikTok, right? It looks like they can't replicate a viral kind of video. It looks like that when you put a video out there, there is a lot of random, in that case, elements that contribute to make the video successful. Now, I don't want to compare this with my project in this case, but what I want to say is that even if you have valid ideas, that is not doesn't mean that you can have the successful communication. That's why I think communication is as important as the project itself, because you can have the best idea ever, but if you're not able to communicate properly, your idea will stay in your room. Or other way around, you can have an amazing communication technique, but not having the project. So you need both things. And I would say that in my case, maybe there was a bit of luck, I don't know what to say, but it worked very well. And actually it worked also for other projects we have done after that. But I can't say which is the strategy, which is the secret. I don't know, but I believe that everything starts from the genuinity, and from the actually the work. So if you work properly, if you do the right things at the beginning, if your ideas are strong, if your ideas are working, I think everything else it's easier after.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I love this story, because indeed I think that when you're trying really hard to go viral, it's not so possible, and it's not so easy, or sometimes you have to compromise. And I remember at the very beginning when you started to introduce this, you spoke about the importance of passion. I kind of feel the connection between basically the success that's like followed you focusing on solving a problem, but actually implementing your own vision and that element of passion. And you mentioned that it's extremely important to like have that throughout your career as an architect and otherwise pretty much in every profession, because it doesn't make you feel like you're working. And I love that you said that, really. I kind of had a conversation with someone I'm doing business with today about a similar thing. And we talked also about the amount of burnout and where it really comes from. And I think that a big part of it is like actually losing track of like what really is exciting for us as architects. So how do you keep that passion going for yourself? I think being an entrepreneur and running your own business is much easier than working for someone else in architecture, but still the everyday tasks and sometimes like things that might not go according to plan can lead to burnout. So how do you keep it all alive?
So yeah, that's a very interesting question, because actually the risk is that when you start your own company, you start, kind of a path where you're more driven by kind of budget and trying to make financially everything working, which is of course is very important. Actually, it's critical, but I think the risk is that you end up being more focused on the money rather than the passion that drives me, and I want to be driven by in the future again still. So I guess, as I mentioned before, I think for me the balance between a feasibility in terms of project that we are doing for clients, but in the same time trying to keep researching and trying to keep developing ideas on topics that I'm very keen on keeps me alive. So for example, we have at the moment projects that actually they are going to start construction very soon in Australia. But in the same time, we have some projects that are in a very early concept phase, that some of them are very hard to make it happen because are very out of the box or out of ordinary projects that require a more it's harder to find investors that believe in some ideas that had never been built before, right? So but still I think the two things are what keep me still dreaming that my job is not a job, but it's my passion, because I know that we can make incredible projects happen. Maybe it's going to take a bit more than conventional projects, but I know that we are working on that, and we are doing things that for me are like like a dream, and something that is when it's going to be it's going to be become reality, is going to be something incredible. I can mention a couple of projects, in particular one, which is the Cacao Eco Village in Ecuador. We are actually doing recycling cacao fibers, cacao waste. So we are doing this project for a chocolate manufacturer, and actually we are trying to reutilize the cacao waste, which is 80% of the chocolate production, 3D printing some parts and cladding and part of the building. So in a logic of circular economy. So it's harder, of course, to start a journey like this because it's never done before, but we will get there. It's going to take a bit more time, but this is what these kind of projects are, the projects that keep me believing that my role is important, in the society is important, because I think if we can make this project, for example, happening, we can give a great example for other people that can do the same thing. Of course, even better, right? But this is the kind of social role that I think we have as architects, and in general, everyone can have, right? So that's what I think it's important.
I love that. I'm probably going to ask almost the same question, but in a different format. But like, I think what's really interesting is the fact that you talk about how many projects that actually have a meaning, whether social, economic, environmental, that you're involved with. How important do you think that particular thing is for you maintaining that passion? Do you think that you would be as passionate about, working with creative approaches to maybe things that don't have that much importance in like socioeconomic and environmental, contexts?
Um, okay, let's say, generally speaking, our job is very tough. Like, honestly, for many reasons, being an architect means working very long hours and working very hard. So if you don't have passion, it's very hard to deal with all these, difficulties, because passion is the only thing that makes you working harder, makes you working maybe during the weekends, and makes you really not thinking that you are tired, all these kind of things. So that's the most important thing. Now, how you keep the passion alive, in my case, is, of course, I think it's very easy for me to keep the passion, because our job, I'm very actually subjective in this way, in what I'm going to say, but I think it's one of the best jobs ever, because actually you keep always, you're always involved in this creative process. You have opportunity to meet amazing people, like always different kind of environments. You can travel different parts of the world. You can always, every project is like a new journey. Is like actually, also is a new story. And I think that every time you start a new project, it's like reading a book, right? Where you read a book, you go through different chapters, different phases, and actually the book is written by different people, maybe. So there are many hands that can contribute to write the story. And the end of the book, it's always a surprise as a story, because the project maybe at the end is not exactly the same as when you started, but maybe it's better, or it can be worse, hopefully not. But through the journey you meet new friends. So it's always like a very dynamic kind of environment, and it's easy to feel like always alive, right? So it's not a kind of job that bores you. So in my case, I would say passion is always, you know, fed by all these kind of dynamics. And the other part of the question was about, you were saying,
Do you
sorry.
think you would feel so passionate if you were not involved with projects
Oh,
that actually have a meaning?
uh, not. I don't. That's a very hard question. Like in my case, um, hoping that somehow I will spend my life living something is what drives me. So
Mm-hmm.
thinking that everyone's life has a purpose, and in this case, my life somehow can give even a little bit, but a small contribution to the society somehow, is what really gives me this sense of responsibility. And of course, when you think about the environment, you think about even designing a simple school, you're actually informing a group of kids that will become the new generation of the future. So you are actually somehow informing the space of who in the future will be the new society, right? And actually, schools in particular are very important, because uh, if you think that kids, they leave their home and they go to a building where they stay for 6 or 8 hours, is basically their second home. So actually, designing educational buildings is important to inform also the mentality of the new generations. And I think everyone remembers his own school. Still remember mine. And if you think about that, schools are not moving, are actually, they stay there on their side, but they travel in our memories, right? So
Yeah, totally. I remember actually, I think it was like architects, not architecture. There was this, I can't remember the architect that was actually speaking, but he was speaking about how he was brought up in one of the Le Corbusier's designed houses in France, and how that actually impacted his childhood and then influenced basically the fact that he became an architect as well. And I find that really interesting, because that connection between like spaces we're brought up in, they create memories, and they create those influences, and like that then really leads to like who we become as
yeah.
adults. And I think that yes, indeed, it's very, very important, and almost every school project for sure has a great influence. I do, however, think that it's like really beautiful to have a mission as an architect, and to I think that a lot of us focus on changing the world in our own way. But I certainly have had experience working with like communities on humanitarian projects. And it's extremely rewarding. That whole experience of like coming into these communities and like developing solutions for the problems that perhaps we're not like fully familiar with, but it's like through research and full understanding, then delivering those solutions. So that's beautiful. You do speak about dreaming is more. Would you explain a little bit as to what that really means? And I like
Yeah.
it.
Okay. So that's something that yeah, is a kind of, I don't want to say a quote, but it's more like a summary of what I think is an attitude, not just for for me as an architect, but in general, because I think it was a couple 3 4 years ago when I started thinking about this philosophy of kind of the way of living. So dreaming is more like I think was a way to encourage people at the beginning to start thinking out of the box, but not in an unfeasible way. So in particular, as an architect, when you dream, it means that you are still. So when you say dreaming is more, it doesn't mean that we have to realize unfeasible and super expensive buildings in my case,
Mhm.
but we have still to be cost and resource conscious. So dreaming means more considering that society is changing, right? And in particular nowadays, there are not, especially new generations, they don't have the same certainties that they had in the past. So dreaming in such in a way, we keep dreaming means that we are always believing that there is a solution for problems that doesn't mean that are not solvable, but at the same time we need to keep the dream as our kind of continuous source of keeping ourselves alive as artists, as architects, as designers, but not only as doctors, as teachers. And dreaming is more, it means that if you have this component in your during your journey, I think it's priceless because is something that I already mentioned at the beginning. When you have this driving force, right, inside you, I think there is nothing that can stop you to not only realize your dreams but also realize other people's dreams. So that's the that's the kind of summary of what I was meaning for this quote, which actually I never really sponsored or but it came up like during some speeches I've done, and someone else I think wrote it somewhere. But yeah, so that's more. I don't know if it makes sense, but it makes sense to me because actually this is what I think is really the description of what I think architecture should do and should be.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So tell us about like one of the biggest lessons you learned from since you started your business, basically.
That's a good question. So, well, you never stop learning, to be honest, because you always, there are always things that are new, right? Especially at the beginning of a new adventure, like in my case. Um, but I wouldn't say I wouldn't say I have any regrets, but maybe I think the way, of course, you structure, maybe the team or even the relationship with the client. So sometimes maybe you need to understand that not every clients are the same. So everyone is different, right? So the way you approach one client is not necessarily working with someone else. So this is maybe one lesson that I learned, that psychologically it's important to keep in mind that you're relating with people that, of course, are have the same role as clients, but have different personalities, right? So psychology is very important. So that's the maybe one thing. So actually, that's why when I think that our job it's very hard and tough is because we are a bit of everything. We are artists, we are scientists, we are psychologists. So we need socially, like we need to understand many different things and relating and trying to learn how to relate with clients from psychological way is very important. So I think that's one lesson. And then I would say that maybe also try to, well, it's not a lesson, but it's something that I want to keep uh, doing is try to really protect your ideas from from day one, because I think the risk is that when you start a project with strong ideas, the clients, of course, are more driven by other uh, priorities. And I think if you stick as much as possible on your principles, I think there are less risk that at the end the project will be very far away from the original concept. So that's another thing that it's a skill. Being able to protect your ideas is a very important skill that is as much as important as the talent of as a designer, because being able to demonstrate to the clients and to protect and to kind of demonstrate that your vision is important, I think is a very important skill. So that's a lesson. More than a lesson, is like an advice that I would say to, you know, I think it's important. It's very important and I'm still learning how to, being better and better in this. So
I love that. Actually, I think that a big part of it is like understanding kind of what is the value that you are bringing as a designer, and like being able to put it forward as, this is what we are here to do. Like, whichever way at the end of the day this goes, like, we are here to accomplish a mission. And I think it's really important, especially now that there's a lot of different professions that are kind of overstepping into architecture, with like even like wholesale stores or whatever, already having architects at house that can design a lot of the, like, solve a lot of the problems construction related for people. And a lot of issues are being basically just, solved by like container prefabricated solutions that are just coming from like building suppliers and stuff like this. So the role of an architect really here is like, we're like problem solvers, and our role is really within the design, and that's the value that you're paying for, right? So just remember, like, reminding your client really, like, what is this architect? It's not just to draw you the plans, but it's like to make sure that that the full experience.
sometimes that is the case, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, and this, I think that like it's in our role to keep educating them as well, because otherwise it just gets blurred. It's like they go somewhere, someone will tell them, hey, you need, a permit, and for that you need a plan. So just hire an architect, and they'll come in for us to do the job. Maybe sometimes unaware as to what our value is on the project. So like it's kind of our sales pitch to step in and say, look, this is what we actually do, and we're not here to draft, but we're here to solve other problems, and like that's the price, and that's the value of working with us. And yeah, I think that you learn that like as you mature as well with business, and a lot of times, because it's like that kind of thing that relates directly to your value, right? And you're not seen as a commodity, like another person can draw plans, but there is more
Is
to individual office.
It's like a bit going to the doctor and tell him what he should prescribe you, right?
Right,
There are
exactly.
people that do that. People that they do that, like they go to the doctor and they say, "I think, doctor, I need this and this and this," and the doctor says, "Sorry, well, you need me just like to write it down, whatever you want." It's basically the same thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. So I think that's why it's like very important for architects to actually like really, really hone in on their mission and vision and values, and be selling that, rather than kind of struggling with like, oh, you just need a plan. Okay, how much is that? Like, no, 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 that's not the service we're providing here. And sometimes saying no to clients like that can also help, right? I think that everyone, growing a business can learn their own boundaries as to what sort of projects and clients we want to work with, and what is just like overstepping our comfort zone too much in a negative way, and being like, no, like, this is not for me. Awesome. So tell us like where we can find you if we want to connect and check out the work. Your website, perhaps, or social media.
Okay, so our website is www.valentinogareri.com, where, of course, there are a lot of projects. Some of them are still confidential, so we are not able to publish it. For example, we are doing a very big development here in Sydney that is still in the process of being approved, so we are not sharing on the website. But there are, of course, news, and everything is pretty much updated with all the latest news and contents. And then, of course, there is our Instagram. So through the website, there is everything else, Instagram page and everything. So definitely, if someone is curious to hear more and know more about us, that's the main way to do it.
Excellent. Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to join Architecture Talk
Thank you, Sarah.
To you. All the best for all the projects. I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen in Ecuador with the 3D printing approach, and also like reutilizing materials from the cacao production. That sounds really exciting. So good luck with all of this. Not that you need it, but looking forward to the results.
Thank you, Sarah. Nice to talk to you. Nice. Bye.
Excellent.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.